Okay. All right. You ready? Governor Sisolak, his wrongdoings. So when people say, why do you want to recall Sisolak? My response is, well, do you want the stuff he did while he was governor, or did you want the stuff he did before he was governor? So just to briefly cover it, CDC, WHO is essentially a puppet of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And it just looks like the Chinese Communist Party is ruling the narrative of the World Health Organization. And if anyone knows what CDC stands for, it's another health organization that's of a globalist mentality and stature. And it just looks like Sisolak is more of a puppet of the CCP than he is trying to do what's right for the people. Shutting down the US economy looks a lot more like economic warfare than it does health. Center for Disease Control, CDC, the global center for disease control, controlling people through disease, right? And so it looks a lot more like economic warfare than it does helping people stay healthy for their own good and separate from people. Forcing a cloth mask statewide. This isn't like in the center near the airport where everyone is shoulder to shoulder sometimes. This is in Elko. This is in Pahrump. This is in Prim. You know, this is nuts. Forcing the cloth mask, or you can't enter the business, and if the business doesn't comply, they get shut down. That's economic warfare. That's not for your own good. That's tyranny disguised as an emergency. Because here's why. Here's the real reason why it's not actually for an emergency. This is why all this BS is really about the presidential election and Donald Trump more than it is about the pandemic. And that's because of quarantining. Quarantining is what you do to sick people. If you get sick, quarantine. Stay away from everyone so you don't get people sick. Putting a mask over your face is what doctors do very specifically to prevent outward exposure into open wounds in an operation, for example. You don't want to contaminate others. But if you're not sick, there's a much better method to protecting yourself than putting this rag over your face. And that is improving your immunodefenses. You need to increase your internal body's defenses against a disease, against an attack, rather than protecting the external against an attack. And from the research I've done, from the mentors I've listened to, vitamin D, the sun, is very important to prevent yourself from going to the emergency room. Taking vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin C. Vitamin C is like the stuff you find in oranges and other sun-heavy fruits, right? So vitamin D converts that vitamin C. There's a correlation, but both of those together, from what I hear, if you have it over a decent level, a normal, maybe a little higher than normal level, then the chances of you going to the emergency room with a life-threatening situation is very, very low. Even if you get coronavirus, it's very low that you're going to be in a very life and death situation. But again, you need to focus, and the governor should be focusing on improving our internal defenses, not tyranny disguised as an emergency. Stay away from people, stay inside, shut the businesses down. It looks a lot more like an invasion led by a puppet than it does a really concerned leader. He's not a leader. He's more of a puppet. Okay, so let's get more into this in depth. So let's continue up on the Chinese invasion, or the Chinese leadership. China enters first at the State of the State address. This was another big, bad no-no. That's not a leader right here. This guy's not leading. Okay, honey, I'm going to take charge now. All right? This woman here is his new wife. This woman here was not, I repeat, not married to him before the election or during the election. She quietly married him after the election. She is wearing red and yellow, the colors of the Chinese flag. She is walking in first upon the entry, symbolic of subservience to Chinese interest and political leadership. He's a puppet, he's a pawn, and she is symbolic of China actually being the leader of our state. She's the governor. She's the one with the pants, so to speak. All right. And you can also see this guy. I think this guy, he either is just, he knows and he's very specific in his actions, or it was just a really good coincidence, but he does not pay attention to them as they walk in. I would say this is symbolic of us. We're looking the other way. We're ignoring this because I bet very few of you have ever seen this. State of the state of dress. This is a GIF pulled directly from the video. Well, anyway, just what I'm saying is, like, this is authentic footage. You can go find it for yourself. And I think I have the link if you really want to, get me to get you that link. But Nevadan, if it's on purpose, then this intelligent man right here is, like turning the other way in order, just heartbreaking. Like, I can't see this. This is treason. It's treason. And then he claps after, they kiss and they walk. After the kiss, they walk in. And then finally our state's back to normal. So now, what else has he done while he's governor? Banning and hoarding of hydroxychloroquine. Trump comes out and says hydroxychloroquine is cheap and effective against the coronavirus. If you get coronavirus and you're in the early stages, you should try this because your wallet can afford it, your health can afford it. And then there was retaliation against hydroxychloroquine. Democrat governor, this is an article, Ken Webster, Democrat governor who banned hydroxychloroquine gets caught hoarding it. So there's two sides to the coin here. On one side, of course, he's just really he wants people to die from the coronavirus. He wants it to be hard to get because this was supposed to be the big pandemic that killed us all. Seriously. And that's what he's doing. But the other side of the coin is that this guy, the governor, was seeing that there was huge demand. There was a big spike for hydroxychloroquine. Trump brought it up and now it's off the shelves and no one can get it. And he's got to keep it safe so that we can fairly distribute it amongst the people who need it. But it didn't really happen that way. And the other thing to note is that it's easy to make. So supply, demand, free market economy, if people are buying it off the shelves, make some more. The governor is creating restrictions against our own people for medicine that's cheap and effective. It just isn't right. Okay? So now the other one is taking credit for Trump's First Step Act. Now I have over here, First Step Act from the search engine, just right on the search engine. As you can see, you can click and go to the Wikipedia article. But the First Step Act, the formerly incarcerated, re-enter society, transformation safely, transitioning every person act, was a bipartisan criminal justice bill that passed the 115th Congress and signed by President Trump in December of 2018. Okay? So he created, well, not he created, but there was a bipartisan bill and Trump, not a dictator, not a racist, signed this bill in order to free non-violent first-time offenders. And the backstory is that Joe Biden, back in the 80s/90s, was passing the crime bill. And the crime bill is known for arresting a lot of African Americans for a little bit of, say, marijuana. And that's it. And they were going to jail for decades, if not life. It was racist legislation because a lot of it, and it was predominantly non-white American people who were getting caught, right? They had in their possession a good, right? They had an item. And I just want to say that crime needs to be focused on having a victim. If there's no victim, then there's no crime. If I'm caught smoking marijuana, I did not commit a crime because I did not hurt anyone. And someone could make the argument that, for example, meth does the worst damage to yourself, right? If you take, ingest, consume like methamphetamine, like a chemically made substance, it will do a lot of bad things. But that person still did not commit a crime. They just really hurt themselves, right? And they may commit a crime while they're high. And that's probably why it's such a dangerous drug, is because people get, so addicted, they get so desperate that they actually commit real crimes. They actually rob and they hurt other people while they're on these terrible drugs. But the drug itself, ingested by a person, is not creating a victim. And if you are trying to stop people from consuming drugs, then you infringe upon freedom. I have the right to do what I wish with my body. And if I wish to consume a drug, even if I hurt myself, I have the freedom to do such a thing. And my counter argument, especially with things like marijuana, is that it's not actually hurting me at all. It's benefiting me for various reasons: mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. Some people find God through the hallucinogenic because it's a new state of mind and conscious and awareness. And that's all it is. It comes, it goes, it passes, but no one got hurt. And that's what Joe Biden did. He made it illegal, and it got mostly African-American people arrested for decades. It was heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking part of our history. And the First Step Act is releasing those people who did well in prison. They're still good people. They still are not violent. They did not create any victims through their actions, and they get released. But what happens is Steve Sisolak on June 2020 decides to take credit. Governor Sisolak, in his own immediate release, is taking credit for pardoning previously convicted people of minor marijuana possessions. Now, he may be the person who is ultimately the final say in who gets released. But there's no thanking of Donald Trump. There's no thanking of even the Congress, of even, the people who passed the bill. It was all credit. It was all internal. Is just taking self-credit. And so this is probably the least of the worst, but still, it's just not good leadership to do that. Give credit where credit's due, please. All right, now let's look into the past. Before he was governor, I put this word here because that's how I see it, and that's what exactly it looks like. But that's not legally what it was determined to be. And it involves McCarran Airport. So here's the story, and you can find this on Wikipedia, his 2005 lawsuit against McCarran Airport. He was, at the time, a public servant. He was in politics. In fact, let's just go back to, he's a career politician who's made millions by the legal system, the judicial branch, but nothing that benefited society. He only took from society. He took from the Clark County taxpayers, because McCarran Airport is an airport owned by the county. So that means our county, this government, is ours, us the people, and specifically the people of Clark County own McCarran Airport. Well, the public servant, Board of Regent at the time, Steve Sisolak, decides to sue the people of Clark County because he's not, some infringement, some regulation that prevented him from making enormous amounts of property. And I will say it was an empty piece of land. There was nothing done to it. He wasn't halfway through a construction and they just slammed something on him. It was an empty piece of property, and he got away with winning a legal lawsuit that generated $23.5 million, but that's not even the worst of it. After he was declared the winner, he then ran for county commissioner, and he won. And then he became county commissioner during the time where the county commissioners were required to finish this lawsuit and pay the plaintiff, Steve Sisolak, this funds. So quite literally, Steve Sisolak, as county commissioner, paid Steve Sisolak $23,500,000 of taxpayer money by suing the people he represents. That was never discussed. That was, well, and I'll get to, it was just, it's dirty. It's bad. It's immoral. How could you do such a thing? How could he get away with it by means of the people actually voting for him? It's because we didn't know. The media didn't share it with everyone voting. He just got away with it quietly under the radar. He gamed the system. And it's immoral. It is reason for him never to be in politics again. And yet he's now our governor after the fact. Okay, so now we go into the darkest part of it. And again, I'm not going to say it, but it happened. And this event happened. Vermilion. So while Steve Sisolak was dating Henderson City Councilwoman Vermilion, a single mother with one daughter, Sisolak was dating her and began an improper scumbag relationship with her teenage daughter, who was then ousted. And let's go over here. Let's take it over to the article. I took a little clip. I made some underlines, just so you know. Sisolak here. Okay, so let's read it. The legal and PR team of former Henderson City Councilwoman Kathleen Vermilion held a news conference. Thank God she did. I wish there was more done. The legal system was not helping her. The media was not helping her very much. You can just tell by the articles. They were not on her side, but they had to release it because she did something that was public. And so she held the conference. While he was county commissioner, he had improper behavior towards her daughter, teenage daughter, underage, under 18. The news conference, which featured a video of the teenage daughter, a video, and I'll say I cannot find this video. I can't find it. If you can find it, please share it, because it looks like it's been completely scrubbed. Like Sisolak hired the lawyers, hired the tech team, erased this underage child, like the child's voice from the internet, and took total dominant control over the situation so it would not turn into what it probably should be. Okay, so the teenager, Vermilion's daughter, made a video calling the county commissioner a scumbag. Now that's all they're gonna say. That's all this media is gonna say about this video. But the scumbag probably should tell you enough about what happened. So it capped a day of dueling accusations between Vermilion and Sisolak. It ended their 5-year romantic relationship. There were lawsuits, defamation, invasion of privacy. It was a crime covered up, okay? And right here at the very end, let's see, defamation, invasion of privacy for allegedly spreading the story that she had tested positive for a synthetic opiate, okay? So he started declaring that she was a druggie. And if we go back over here, with her teenage daughter, who was ousted by her father. So what had happened was the divorced father, or the separate father, ousted the daughter, said the daughter was making everything up. But and then the mom nearly died of an overdose after Sisolak said that Sisolak said that she was taking opiates. And so either she got really depressed or something, she took some drugs, or it got even more sinister, where she was poisoned. Okay, so Vermilion also alleged that Sisolak had an improper relationship with at least 2 underage children. Not just her daughter, who calls him a scumbag and probably admitted a serious crime in the video we cannot find, but also her daughter's friend. He's preying upon the children is what this press conference was all about. And it never, let's go to the next one, never came to light. So I have a few simple questions for the people of Nevada. And before I do, let's just let's go through some of these comments. He was caught in a photo buying it for himself. Buying it, the land, I'm assuming. How did he get elected? Rigged election like Pelosi? Well, it's possible voter fraud takes a part, as we previously mentioned, or propaganda and media hides things and steers people's attention in a certain way. And you just don't know who you're voting for. And you honestly elect a bad person. And a combination, right? It's got to be a combination. It depends. When did he buy the property? Someone says regarding the lawsuit. Still, that's really not the point. The fact is that it's immoral to run for the position that's going to pay you. That's the problem. Okay, what the 3 exclamation marks? Someone is just surprised to hear all this. Just another PEDO. You can fill in the rest. Telling you what to do. Unreal. They're all over the place. I will agree. This is Sin City. It is not, it should not be, it's not surprising to me anymore that there is a lot of crime in this area and it's all being ignored. Okay, well, no wonder he's in bed with all the PEDO Dems. I'll agree with that. Joe Biden, you can very well tell Joe Biden is part of that affiliation. Maybe we can find the daughter and ask her what happened. Absolutely. I will tell you this. She went to college in New York. That's the only thing I could ever find her. She's somewhere else. She probably has some NDA. She can't talk. She got coerced into signing something where she feels threatened to say anything. But yeah, hopefully we can get to the point where she can come out publicly and tell the truth, the full truth. She's probably grown up now. Yeah, she's over 18. Never heard a word of it, right? Most didn't. This is insane. Okay, let's go back to this. I have a few simple questions for the people of Nevada. Number 1, did you know about any of this? Did you know about all of this? Number 2, do you think it's fair that none of this history was truly brought to light during the 2018 election year? This wasn't brought to light by Laxalt. This wasn't addressed by the Republican Party. This was not discussed by the press. The main press, the press that reaches sufficient number of ears and eyes. Because I will say that there are people who have taken press into their own hands and released some websites, some web pages, but the traffic that went to them, maybe it was suppressed by Google, right? The ability for this information to get out was not as it should be, which is easy to find and honestly exposed to all of us who should be making a fair assessment of our governor, the leader of our entire state. Number 3, do you think it's possible that all these allegations could, in fact, be crimes covered up by a cabal network corrupting our state of Nevada? Do you think it's even possible that this government could be led, doesn't have to be everyone, I assure you, I know this, I believe it wholeheartedly, most of the people in the state, in the country, and in the world are good, honest people. Most. But when it comes to powerful positions, when it comes to our government, there are a few leadership positions that can get a lot done, or they can cover a lot up. They have a lot of power. And if you just get a few bad people in all of those positions, you could have a network that covers crimes. Number 4, even if they are all, as the court says, all the things Sisolak legally, righteously, he from the court's perspective, deserved the 23 million. There was no crime. There was no cover up involving the McCarran Airport lawsuit. The court was actually doing its job and it can be trusted when it comes to the whole Vermillion's daughter scenario, and everything else, even if they're all, as the court says. Is Sisolak truly the best amongst us to lead all the Nevadan people as our governor? Is he really the best? Number 5, do you believe that the Trump administration and the FBI would arrest Sisolak if he were recalled? Do you believe that the Trump administration and the FBI are to a point and in a situation where they could follow up on all this stuff I just shared with you and take action against the former governor, Sisolak, because the people finally raised up and said enough is enough. We want him recalled no matter what. And then he gets recalled. Would something happen to him? Legally, righteously, with a real investigation by a third party outside of our state to clear the air and make things public as they should be. All right, that's it. Oh, that is the end of Sisolak's wrongdoings. Although I will just go back and cover some things I missed. There were some insider NFL deals that were mentioned. I wasn't really able to, I've heard about them, but I didn't pull them together. So basically when he was commissioner, he is taking credit for the Raiders coming into Las Vegas. And there was something about a land deal where the Raiders were given some Vegas land. And then the Raiders turned around and sold it for a profit. So it was like, why was that for the public best interest? And then the other thing was just the career politician. Do we really want a career? I mean, if you're following the presidential stuff and you're following essentially the Democrats and the corruption, all the people who are really speaking loudest against Donald Trump are career politicians. They've been there for decades. And Steve Sisolak is one of those people. He's kind of next in line when it comes to the Pelosi's and the Bidens and whatnot, because he's been serving us, and I would like to comment, not very well, in fact, very poorly. He's been serving Nevada since 1999. You flip that around with a 1, you get another satanic symbolism. But he was regent for 10 years, he was commissioner for 10 years, and now he's governor.